Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. So today we're talking about Volusion, and very specifically, I want to go over templates. Okay. Now, here's my disclaimer. If you guys have already had a site professionally designed for you, then it's fine that you're learning about this, but don't change your existing template because all that work that was done for you by our web developers um, would get altered and ruined if you went in and messed with your template. Okay? So if you're newly designing a site, this is a great training because this is going to show you how to kind of figure out what kind of a template to use. If you've already had your site built already, proceed with caution. Don't edit your template or switch out the template for something else unless you get permission from your coach. Okay? Because I don't want this to cause any problems. I know there's a good portion of you guys that had your site already designed. Some of you guys are doing your site on your own. So just keep that in mind as we proceed forward here, okay? Now, here's how you get here. So in Volusion, you log into your Volusion account, and you'll probably be here on the dashboard somewhere. Let me log in to this little test account that we have. Okay, and it's going to be under design and then template right here. Okay, so dashboard, you get to this section right here. You'll notice we're on our manage store button up here at the top left, and then we come over here to design and then template. Somebody described to me, when I say a template for a website, what am I talking about exactly? What's the template? The template's kind of the overall look, isn't it? It's the general feel and design of the website, the general use of colors and complementary colors throughout the site. The bones of the site is how I would describe it. That's what the template is. Now, all sites are built on some kind of a template. That's at least the starting point. Very rarely these days do you have a site that's built from absolutely nothing, from raw code and scratch. It just doesn't happen that way. Not anymore anyway. So Volusion provides us with some templates to start off on, and I'll show you the ones right down here below. Okay, these are templates. Now, Volusion provides 75 different options for a template, and you can see little screenshots here. I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see them just a little bit better. But this one is called Cheris 2.0. And you'll notice it's free. This one's called Dress 2.0. You'll notice it's free. Technologic 2.0. You'll notice it's free. Not all Volusion templates are free, unfortunately. And as you scroll through this list, you're going to see some that cost money. This one right here is $900. This one right here is $900. Okay, so on and so forth. So Volusion as a shopping cart company, they pre-built some pretty nice setups for templates. We'll never pay for any of those, okay? We can always work off of the free ones. And there's a way to filter out these paid ones. So you come up right here to the top left, select free, and that'll automatically filter those out. Now we have 16 matches, okay? We have 16 different options for templates that we can choose. And by the way, guys, when we're doing templates, really before we get to this stage, I like to see a lot of the site done. So you should already have your niche. You should have some suppliers. You should have a domain name. You should have products on your site, categories on your site, your informational pages done, returns, shipping, about us, contact us. You should have your tax set up. You should have your payment done. You should have run a test order. I like to see you do kind of all the stuff we've been talking about first, and then last but not least, I like you to get over here and think about your design. I know that may seem a little bit backwards, as most of us are predisposed to think, well, let's work on the design, then let's work on the other stuff. I think this is a better way to do it. Again, if you already have a built site that was already designed for you that has a nice logo and a nice homepage image and stuff, then this part doesn't really apply. But it's still worthwhile so you can kind of see the process that was involved to get there. Valerie, to your question, what makes a template so expensive? Well, certain templates take a considerable amount of time to develop out and create. So Volusion as a company will spend thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to pay developers to create these specialty templates. And then depending on how much time, energy, and the features that went into creating this template, they put a price tag on it. I would never pay $900 for one of these templates. I just wouldn't do it. It's just not, I mean, because you're basically paying $900 for a skeleton, and you still have to get in there and really make some adjustments to make it look the way you want it to. But I mean, some templates will just fit your theme really well, and sometimes that's not the case. Like, I guess, you know, if you came in here, let's filter, let's look at just the paid ones real quick. So, I don't know, here's a template right here. We can view the live demo of it. Okay, so it's kind of like templates that are designed like this are usually slightly more unique. So you can see this one has some really cool buttons on it right here on the home page. Most of the information about the site, the navigation and stuff is here on the left. It's just kind of a unique looking site. And so somebody might see this and be like, oh, I love this. This is exactly kind of what I want my site to look like. And they'll just buy the template outright. But then they'd still have to get in here and change pictures and adjust colors and fonts. And so anyway, for that reason, can I just tell you that for you guys that are going to be working on your own site, don't use a paid template. It's not worth it. There are enough free ones. So I'm going to unfilter the $8.95 and I'm going to go to the free ones real quick. Okay, so these free ones right here, there's only a select handful of these that I would even use. I would go right here to where it says responsive, and I want only the responsive templates to show up. If I select only responsive and free, guess how many I get? I only get 6 choices here, okay? Now, why and what is responsive is the question I get. Well, let me take you over to Google for just a minute. And let me share this with you. You'll notice I'm on Google's official AdSense guide. And I want to just read this little paragraph to you right here. It says, starting April 21st, 2015, Google Search will be expanding its use of mobile friendliness as a ranking signal. This change will affect mobile searches in all languages worldwide and will have a significant impact in Google search results. Users will find it easier to get relevant, high-quality search results optimized for their devices. To help you make sure your website is ready for this search change, we put together the following frequently asked questions. Okay, so let me explain what this means. So back in April of last year, so this has been going on for about a year ago, or for about a year, Google made an announcement and basically said, okay, for everyone who owns a website out there, you need to make sure that your site is mobile friendly. And to define mobile friendly, that just means that the site needs to display very well on a phone screen, like an iPhone or a Samsung screen, right? A smartphone. It needs to display well and be optimized for tablets, and it needs to display well and be optimized for big computer screens. In the past, prior to that, a lot of web design, when you had a website built, it didn't necessarily cater to all those devices because years ago there wasn't a lot of searches being used on a phone or a tablet. But over the last 10 years, that's very much changed. And so because such a high volume of people are using their phones or tablets as a way to search and use the internet, Google decided they didn't want to show websites that don't display well on those devices as high in their search engine results. That's why they said this: Google search will be expanding its use of mobile friendliness as a ranking signal. So all things equal, if I have a website that wasn't designed with a mobile design in mind, and then you have a website that's mobile friendly, your site, all things equal, is going to rank higher than mine. Google would prefer to show yours. Okay. And like we talked about here, it's going to make a significant impact on Google search results. So because a high volume of searches are happening through your phone and through everybody else's phones and tablets, you need to make sure your website is based on a responsive theme. All of our websites now that get designed for our clients are responsive and have been for a while. So if you're sitting in this webinar, your site, if it was designed by our design team, is a responsive site and is probably based on one of these templates here. There's only 6 of them with Volusion. It's Cherish 2.0, Dress Express 2.0, Technologic 2.0, Hipster 2.0, District 2.0, and Ethereal. These are all your responsive themes. Okay. So, yeah, a lot of you guys, Walter, you included, nothing to change, right? A lot of you guys had your site already designed. Don't change a thing about it. But if you're in the process of building your site and you're trying to decide what your template should be like, these are your options. Don't choose anything else, okay? Now, here's the nice thing. If you choose one that you like, well, first of all, I guess before you choose it, you can review what some of them look like. So, Cherish 2.0. Let me click on this and I'll show you what that looks like. You know, it's a responsive design if it's got the little picture of a phone, a tablet, and a computer, meaning it's going to be coded so that it displays well on all of those devices. Also, one other thing, just as far as responsive web design, this is from Google as well. This is off of one of Google's developer pages. This is just some advice to people. It says right here on number 3, it says select a mobile template theme or design that is consistent for all devices, i.e. use responsive web design. Responsive web design, or the acronym is RWD, means that the page uses the same URL and the same code whether the user is on a desktop, computer, tablet, or mobile phone. Only the display adjusts or responds according to the screen size. So in other words, when the site was developed, it was coded so that no matter what screen you're seeing, it automatically sizes perfectly for it. So it doesn't matter if you have one of those giant iPhones or one of the smaller iPhones, it's coded so it's going to display well. It doesn't matter if I have a giant 26-inch monitor or a smaller 18-inch monitor, it's going to display well on all those devices. And Google has since said this responsive web design isn't just a good thing for users, it's a part of their ranking formula. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to show you one other source that sort of preaches that same message. That's why we think it's of critical importance that you guys make sure you choose one of these 6 templates. Okay. So if you're looking at Cherish 2.0 here, you can click on View Live Demo, and you can see kind of a general look of what the website might be like. Now, what you're looking at in a template isn't necessarily what this logo looks like up here, because this would be changed. And you're not necessarily looking at the homepage image, because this would be changed. But you're looking at the overall look and setup, right? You've got a little About Us section right down here at the top left. Here's your footer. You know, certain fonts that are used. Here's an orange stripe that goes across the top. Here's the search bar. You know, they've got some links up here. This is the general template. Compare this to another one. Let's go back and let's look at another one of those templates. Compare that to, say, I don't know, this one. or this one, District 2.0. This is my favorite one, District. Let's click on this one, and we'll view live demo. Then you have this kind of a theme that's got sort of one color that goes across the top, a light middle, and then a color down here at the bottom. I know our developers use this kind of a setup a lot when they're designing and setting up websites for our clients because it's super versatile. This is definitely a favorite of one of our developers. So, you know, again, when you're looking at a template, you're looking at, okay, overall color scheme, which by the way can be changed. I'm going to comment on that here in just a second. Overall look or structure of the site. Where does the navigation menu show up? It's at the top here. Where is the search bar? It's right up here at the top. Is there a footer? Yes, there is. Here's the way it's formatted. What does the main content look like, right? What does a product page look like? If you click on a product page on District, this is more of what it would look like. All right. On another template, let's go back to that other one. You might want to look at product pages. On Cherish 2.0, if we view the live demo, a product page might look like this instead. So kind of what's the overall general format look like? That's the question that you should have. Ralph, that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked. Ralph and Carmen ask, how do I know which one of these I currently have? Actually quite easily. So when you go up here to design and then select template, you will see at the top here, active template. It will actually show you which template you have activated. That's how you know. Now, a template is the structure, but it's the bones, right? That's the analogy we've been using. But if you want to bring in a different look to it, this is where it gets a little tougher, okay? And I'll explain why. When you're here at templates, you're going to notice something called advanced editing. For you guys that paid to have developers do this, you'll appreciate this. If you have not, I'm going to explain this in more detail in coming trainings, maybe even a little bit more next week. But under advanced editing, there's a spot to edit the HTML and edit the CSS. Let me explain. Here's the HTML of the site. If I click on edit HTML, this will bring up the code of the entire website right here, or a portion of the code that makes up the look of the website. I can see lots of glazed over eyes here. Okay, if you didn't have a shopping cart like this, you would have to know how to do this code. That's the HTML. Usually, if you're looking to edit a color portion of your template, so for example, if we look at our current district template like this, if I'm looking to say make a color change up here, and I want to see instead of black, I want to see a light blue up there, it's not so easy to change. You would have to come into what's called the CSS. Right here is a link to edit CSS. And inside the CSS, you'll see all sorts of different code. I'm just kind of scrolling down so I can show you about what it looks like. This is where you would change the colors on your site. Now, you might look at this like, I have no idea what any of this even means. I understand that. Most people don't. That's why it's nice to have a developer that's setting it up for you. But if your budget doesn't allow to have a developer work on the overall look and design of your site, you can get in here and learn some very, very basic CSS and be able to change some of the colors that you want. That's one reason why when you're looking at the 2.0 templates within Volusion, you want to make sure you choose something that overall fits the theme of your site. That way you don't have to make too many color changes. For example, Cherish 2.0 was kind of a brighter color, a little happier, had some orange, had some other lighter colors. If I were designing a site that was about jewelry or apparel or fitness, I would be using that. Because then I don't have to necessarily go in and change too many colors and stuff because they're all preset and they look nice. I don't have to go in and mess with the CSS. Now, if I, if I had kind of maybe a more masculine website, or even a more classic, high-end women's luxury apparel site where a black would make sense, then maybe I would use District because they have a nice, sleek, black, more modern design, right? But can this stuff be changed? Can I come up here and change the black, and can I change the fonts and the colors and everything else? Could I change this button to something different? Yeah, I can change anything about this site. Could I, instead of having a black bottom footer section, could I make this a repeating image that looks really nice? Yeah, you bet I can. But I would have to know how to make those changes within the CSS. Okay, and so no, this isn't for beginners necessarily. Font or template editing is not simple to do. And I am going to take some time to do some basic training on it, so you guys that are building a site on your own can know at least the basics. But that's one reason why web designers and web developers make a lot of money, because they're trained formally on this stuff, and sometimes not formally. They learn it over time, but they know this so well that they're able to make the changes that you want to have happen. It's not easy if you're doing it on your own. And trust me, I know, because when I was first doing websites, I didn't have the money to pay a web designer. So I was in here, I was on YouTube, I was in forums, and I was trying to figure out how CSS worked, so I could come in here and make some basic changes to a site, and that wasn't easy. So if this stuff scares you, first of all, I understand why that is, but second, know that it's not required. You don't have to get in here and edit the CSS or the HTML. If you can just make sure within Volusion you come up to design and template, and you choose a template that generally fits the look of your site. Maybe you want a lot more white that's used, and so maybe instead you go free, responsive, and then you use, this one has a lot of white right here. Here's the demo on this. So most of the store is white, and you could bring in some color into the logo and into your homepage image right here, right? But there's not a lot of other colors, a little bit of pink or whatever, but most of the store is white. That could be good. Although with this one, if you're like, it's too much white, I want to have kind of a background color or an image, again, you'd have to be able to change the CSS, okay? So that's kind of your template basics right there. Once a site has been developed and you've designed it and you've edited the template a little bit, if you go and switch out the template for something different, it's going to negate those changes. So once you choose a template, you're done. Don't go and try to choose another one or switch it back. Unless you've done very little changing, in which case, sure, go ahead and do it. But I had a client years ago who had a site professionally developed. They had started with a base template, but did a ton of custom work on it. And the client found this section, templates, and started to mess with it. They changed and saved over the top of the existing template, and it was gone. Like, there was no way to retrieve that. So again, I have two types of clients. Some that have one that's professionally done. Don't ever get in and adjust the template without talking to your coach about it. Or the other set of clients that are working on it on their own, that haven't had anything pre-done. Well, then we can talk about editing and adjusting your template. But again, my overall takeaway for you guys that are working on this for the first time should be this: that you filter by free and you filter by responsive. You choose one of these 6 that generally fits the look of your site or the look of your brand, and you go with it. And you can make little edits along the way. That's why I like a lot of these, because these wider based ones, Dress Express, Ethereal, even Hipster, they've got kind of a white base, so it's easy to have it kind of cater to almost any niche. I would say District 2.0 while it's one of my favorites, and while it's one of the favorites of our developers, it's also a bit more on the advanced side because a fair amount of custom CSS work is often associated with it as you'll need it, unless of course you look at it and you're like, I love the black, that fits my brand, and that's what I want to go with. Well, then great. Then keep the black. But that doesn't fit every brand, right? Also, another word of caution. If you do go in and start monkeying around with the CSS, and by the way, let me show you where to find that. If I'm just here in my Volusion site, I can find that by going Design and Template, and I can select either Edit HTML, or this is the one that people edit if they want the design to change, Edit CSS. If I click Edit CSS, that takes me into here where I can edit this content, okay? There's another place where you can find that, and I've told you guys not to go there before because I don't want you to mess it up. But if you go to Design and then File Editor right here, it'll take you to the same place. This is the file editor. This is a while back in some of our basic Volusion trainings, I told you to never go here and adjust anything unless you knew what you were doing with code. If you don't, you should stay out of it because this could break your site. This is the only area of your site, if you get in here and mess around, that it could break your site. So just stay out of Design and File Editor unless you know what you're doing, okay? Because here I can access my CSS, and whatever changes I make here may affect my entire site, okay? So again, I know a lot of you guys are like, wow, I didn't know there was all this to choosing a template or designing my site. Sometimes after I do this training, my clients feel a little more overwhelmed, but don't. I mean, I went into a lot more detail because I wanted to show you more of the intuition behind what goes into designing a site. For you guys that are designing your own site, choose one of those 6 templates and go ahead and move on. They're all really good. They're just slightly different, but they really are they're good to use. Okay. Let me look back to questions here real quick. I'll answer a few and then we'll finish up. What does CSS stand for? It stands for Cascading Style Sheets. They invented this type of code because in a website that has hundreds of pages, in the old way, you would have, if let's say you wanted to change like the font across your entire site, the old way would have required you to go into all 200 pages and change individual code within each page. With CSS, you change the code once within a certain section of the CSS, and it changes the look throughout the entire site. So it's a way to easily manage the general look and design, color scheme, fonts, and feel for the entire site in one place. That's what CSS is for. Christina's question, do you suggest to those of us that don't have a website already paid for to learn to do it yourself, or basically pay for it? I guess that's an option, right? Like, if you haven't paid for a site already, you have to ask yourself, do I want to just learn it and try it myself, or do I want to just pay developers to design it really nicely for me to get it going? I don't know. I mean, that's a conversation you'll definitely want to have with your coach. I always tell my clients, financially, if you can afford to pay for it, do it. It's worth it, 100%. It's absolutely worth it for your first site because, A, you'll save a tremendous amount of time. You'll have your site going a lot faster. And B, with all due respect, there's a difference between a site that's been professionally designed and a site that's put together by an amateur, right? Significant difference. Does that mean that you can't be successful if you're doing it yourself? No, because we can teach you along the way. But all things being equal, financially, if you can afford it, you pay somebody to do your first site, you learn off of that site, and then on your second one, you make that same decision. If you're making enough money, pay again and just have somebody do it again. If you're not, and you have to be a little bit more careful, then we can work and train you on building your second one. So Anyway, I know that's kind of a hard question to answer. I think it's very much specific to the client, but that's how I would answer it, just generally speaking. You know, pictures actually are not changed in the CSS. Good question, Oliver. CSS isn't for pictures, it's just for stuff throughout the site. So if you have a red, let's say, not red, yeah, okay, we'll use the color red. Let's say you have a red footer section, and it's just a harsh red, and you want to change that, you would do it in the CSS. If there was a picture on your home page that you didn't like, you would do that by editing the home page. CSS is just for stuff that carries throughout your entire site. If the font on your site is Times New Roman, and you don't like that and you want to change it to Arial or whatever, that would be done in the CSS. And all sorts of other advanced stuff. So, you guys probably didn't know that much went into template design and web design. There you go. That's your first step. Choose your template and then work off of that. What we may do is I may choose a template and we'll decide. I'm not sure how much detail I want to go into on this, just because I don't want to overcomplicate this, especially because I don't think the success of your site here at the start necessarily has to do with how well it's designed, although I think that's part of it. I may go into more detail on doing the CSS. We'll see. But hopefully at least now you kind of understand the reasoning and logic behind template selection. And for those of you guys who are doing the site on your own, you should be able to reasonably make a good choice as to which template you use. Okay? Okay, let's see. Any other thoughts or questions? Where do our developers get the pictures that they use throughout the site? Your question, and those images are purchased through a licensed stock photography company. So anyway, those are purchased on your behalf. I guess that's how I'd answer that. Messing with the product fonts, etc., are entirely independent, correct? Asked Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. If you wanted your product fonts to be the same throughout your site, you would do it in the CSS, but you can override that on a specific product page by changing the font on that page. So I guess that's how I would answer that. Yes and no. Just to make product descriptions darker, what has to be done? Has to be done in your CSS. And by the way, the CSS and the code is different depending on the template. So, Barbara, I don't know. That would be a question for a developer. You'd have to get into your CSS, find where the color is somewhere in that massive amount of code, and change it. There's definitely a way to do it, but it would be a question for the developers. And I certainly wouldn't want to dig into it and try to figure it out now because that would take us way too long. But it's something that we can look into for sure. In fact, that's kind of what I want to do potentially in our next session, is just show you some basic CSS editing so you guys can kind of see how that works. And then maybe you'll have enough confidence to go in there and kind of play with it yourself. Not that you'd be doing it a lot, right? Because most of the time, once you have the general look of your site, you know, you're not going to be spending too much time worrying about your CSS because it's going to be good. Okay, good questions, everybody. Let's finish up. We'll see you for some more Volusion training next week, and same time, same place. And hopefully, this is helping you. I know these aren't always for those of you that are here live. They're not always relevant. You know, half of you guys already have your sites built, probably, or more. So this wouldn't be as relevant. But I think knowing the intuition is certainly helpful. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks.